Okay, and welcome to this tutorial. We're going to be box modeling a very simple character, starting from a box and moving all the way through to the final character. This is the a chibi character that I got off this sheet, and I've used the proportions and modeled it with box modeling, so we can show you how box modeling works around a face, how box modeling works around a hand, and general topology of a very simple character. Okay, so here's our box. We spin around. First thing we have to do is put on a mirror modifier. So we put on the mirror, but we can't see anything mirrored because a box is a box. So take it off the mirror. It's mirroring on Z, so take the geometry off the Z axis. Next thing to do is to delete the center face. Turn on clipping over here in the modifier and move it back, and now we're ready to start. This edge here is the mirror edge. Okay, so that's the center of the model. So that's where we'll be working around the center from the front view and the side view. So now we have to put in the imagery that we're going to follow by going here to the side menu, turning on background images, add image. Now we have to find the image. There's our image. You won't be able to see anything until you go into a front view or a side view in orthographic. Orthographic mode, just press the number pad 5. It toggles on orthographic mode. Right, so there's our model. Now usually I put the center of the model, that little tiny orange dot, I put that in the middle of the hips, and then I just model around that. Okay, so I'll just extrude a few here for the main part of the torso, up to the neck. Come across for the neck. I'll fix all of this, but as soon as I get the correct topology in. Obviously the drawing's not perfectly symmetrical, but we'll work with that as we go. Okay, so there's my torso. The side view probably isn't lined up, so let's just get that lined up. Now I know that this face is the front of the character. So when I go to my side view, that's not the correct face for this part of the view over here. So we have to look from the other angle, press number plate 9, and that views the model from the other angle. In object mode, just move it across and shape the character back using your modeling tools. Very simple model at the moment. There's hardly any detail at all. We'll be fixing that as we go. So I'm just pushing all of these roughly into position. And obviously the model has to have a nice smooth across the it's all very boxy, and that's okay because we'll be working towards getting rid of the boxiness as we work. The other thing about box modeling is you need to add another modifier called a subsurface modifier, and that adds the roundness that you might need to get organics. You can see the low res cage there helps you determine where your model is at the moment versus where it should be with the subsurface. Now that higher res model there, you can turn that up so it's nice and smooth. That can be viewed as smooth or flat shaded. So you can choose whichever you like. And the other one is when I'm in edit mode, I can see the cage of the low res model. Now some people like to see the cage, because if you want the cage to wrap onto the model, and I like that, just click on this button over here. So I'll turn it on, and that's where we are. Okay, so front view, I'm working off the right hand side of the drawing. So that's where we are. It seems to be all lined up, but go to the side view, a little bit astray back here, so I'll just fix that up. I am using this tool down here so I can grab a few vertexes at a time and just move them in, although it is very low res model at the moment. Alright, first things first, let's get an arm extruded. So I'll just extrude that out a bit. Starts my shoulder, and from a front view I want to make sure I'm not losing my model shape while I'm making these extrusions, but I'm extruding along the arm as shown in the model. Now there will be my elbow, and just grab those faces as I go. I won't do the hand just yet, I'll start that a bit later, but you'll see me progress to that as we move on. So very, very simple. Not much detail yet, I'm just getting all the core topology into the model. So you can see there it lines up. Let's see what happens on the side view. There's not really any arm detail for the side view, so I kind of have to make it up as I go. I know that I'll need more topology there, so I just do bevel, Control B, and that adds a bevel there. Push that back, so I can now determine where my elbow on the model is. Probably a bit bulgy, so you've just got to take a best guess about your model sheet. I'll push that up towards the wrist. GG does the slide along the model. GG slides back there, tightens up the shoulders a bit. And from a front view, that's looking okay. Probably pull that edge out, give that bit of flesh there. And as we work, we'll modify all this. This is very low res poly at the moment. And if you turn off your subdivision surface, it's very boxy. It's only 53 faces. Okay. Now we're going to start the leg. Now if I turn that back on, if I start the leg by just extruding, it's connected across the middle, because I know with my mirror modifier I've left clipping on. Now I don't want it. I want a separate leg, a separated leg, because the character has separate legs. So I first have to do an inset with an eye, and then I can drag that down as part of my topology. It's either an inset or an extrusion. There's my knee, and down to my ankle, and one more extrusion for the foot. I'll extrude out there for the foot and make a cut like that. Alright, so very, very simple. It's all not quite lined up yet, and I'll just do that now. Some people like to inset for a kneecap, so that becomes a loop there. Obviously I have to take a bit of the tension out of this knee, and I'll put in an edge loop down the base of the ankle, and then another edge loop there, slide it GG, actually I need two. So one edge loop there for a bit of flesh. You need to put in some extra flesh. Now this foot's looking very square. Put in another edge loop there and straighten it all up. And we want that classic instep shape of a foot, whereas the front of the foot has a bulge, and obviously it tapers down towards the toe. This is not final feet, but it certainly puts the right amount of topology in there for this character. Okay, I'm moving a few vertexes I don't want around. Smooth that back up. Across the back of the foot gets quite narrow on characters. Just remember general anatomy. That's where the Achilles heel would be. Let's get a bit more flesh there for the calf. Always check against your model sheet how the model is faring. I'm not lined up, so I just have to push that back with those edge loops, push them back into alignment with the model sheet. A little bit too chubby there, and the model is starting to take shape. Sort of not a very detailed model sheet, but you sort of get the feel for where I'm going with just the general topology. Okay, very basic, which is good because you don't want a lot of vertices to move around. You want the smoothing to be done by the subsurface modifier over here. Okay. Now this kneecap, in fact, let's not have a kneecap, so I'll just select that edge ring like that and collapse. So press W, merge, collapse, and I don't have a kneecap now. So it's just topology that was getting a little bit ugly. I can put it back in if I need it later. Okay, slide that back up and skinny it a little bit. Make sure that sits with our model sheet. Crutch line's a little bit low, and just working to smooth shapes out. That will be the face where my knee sits. So in fact, I don't really need that. Delete that edge loop, and that will be where my knee is. So push that down the model by sliding it. I've still got enough topology there to hint a calf or a bit of flesh there for the thigh. We don't really have enough topology there for the back of the character, but just have a look against the model sheet to make sure the character's got the correct shape. Doesn't really, so probably not drawn 100% correctly, but at least we're getting there in terms of general topology. Alright, obviously you have to make sure the character looks okay from 360 degrees, because there's no way the artist can draw it from every possible angle. So you have to make sure that it looks okay from every angle, and also in perspective as well. So there's our character body. I'm aiming for the right hand side. Alright, let's have a tackle of the head. I usually like to place the face of the character in its own loop, so I just grab the faces where the face elements will be, and I extrude, and then turn that back down, slide that edge and that edge back along the model, and this will be where the main features, I can actually put the main features inside this loop, and that means I've got full control of my loops as I need to. Generally eyes are about halfway down the model, but on this model they're about there, so I have to put a loop about there. There's my loop. It's misshaping the head a bit. You've got to be careful about major loops that they don't misshape the head too much. So the eye edge is just there. Just move some of these lines back a bit, just so that I don't get such a misshapen head. Don't lose. Just remember that edge loop I've got highlighted there. Don't lose that edge loop. That's a good one to have right round the model. Okay, so the eyes are going to be here, and I want to make the eyes about a bevel, so I just beveled that edge by going Control B and give that a bit of size. Now I can inset there straight away, but then I won't have anything down the center to build my nose with, so I should actually cut there. Now that does cut all the way down the model, and that's okay because we will need some topology down there to add some meat back into the model. So now I can get some cheeks going back on this model here. So that's actually good to have extra topology. I don't mind putting those loops around the model. That's enough now to suggest some shoulder blades. See how the character is slowly getting some shape by adding loops, and that's good. So we need those cuts. We don't want too many down the body though, and I'll show you later how to make sure there's not too many. So there's about where I want my eyes, but I'll push this edge across towards the nose and then inset here. That's where my eyes will be. I've deleted inside that face, so that's my eye just right there. Probably not enough topology, but it starts the topology for that character, and it gives me a nice loop just here where I can put my nose and mouth. Okay, so don't forget this is a mirrored model, so in fact if I turn the mirror off I'm only building half the character, which is good. This is where I'll want the mouth and nose. In fact the nose will probably come off this bit as well. So I just grab that bit and extrude, and instantly I get a loop around the maw, which is the nose and mouth of a character. That loop is around exactly where I need it, and because I like to separate loops, that's the eye loop and that's the maw loop. I don't really need to separate those loops, but I would like to separate the nose and the mouth. So if I go in here and extrude, there's my mouth, and that forms a loop now around, if I can select it, around there. Let's just minimize that so it's easy to select. Sorry, my selection's a little bit dodgy. There it is, there's my mouth. If I put my nose there, it's right adjacent to this loop, and I don't always like to do that, so mind you, what I would normally do is just make an edge cut there, bring it down towards the mouth for the lip. Now I can inset the nose. I don't need to inset, I need to extrude. Sorry. There we go, there's my nose. I've got a loop for the nose, I've got a loop for the maw, and I've got a loop for the mouth. And across the middle I've got another loop that separates the mouth and the nose. So there is where I'll make my nostril. Right. So I make that vertical, bring down that edge, that can be the peak of the nose, and inset just there, delete that face, that's my nostril. Okay, so lovely loops everywhere. That's my nose loop. Obviously we need to move some polygons around to make it look better, but we're getting there. There's not really enough topology around that way. So, and ideally I wouldn't want those loops going in those directions. So let's see if we can't cut some loops across here to get into the nostril, just to give this face and this face some more. I can even cut from the eye down to the mouth, but let's cut to the nostril first so I get some topology in there. I want to bring, ideally, I want to bring that edge down as far as possible, so our nose isn't under a lot of tension. Push that nostril back up. This is all interpolation. Now, discovered, there's my nose. Probably don't want that so far down. That's a nose edge ring, and that's a nose loop. So I need some more topology, otherwise I can't form my nose correctly. So what I can do, the cut tool doesn't work very well with subsurface modifier. I'll try it. I want to cut starting in there all the way to the eye, but it doesn't want to. So I'll have to do it using, I want to make sure that that edge there is visible and that edge there is visible. So I'm going to cut from that to that. So all I do is cut tool all the way to that. Okay, now once I've made the cut, there's triangles everywhere, it's ugly, so now I have to make the bevel. Okay, so now I've got some more topology up on the eye, which is good. But I've made a few boo-boos here with triangles. So let me just get rid of those triangles. There's that topology still there. Have to smooth that out. There's a long stretchy polygon there, so probably make a cut from the eye all the way across to the exit point and chase that. I have to get rid of that triangle right there. I can either, there's one there as well, so make that a, I can merge that. There's another triangle there that I've discovered. And I've got a nice loops there, just checking loops. Still got my loop going to my eye. I'll just make a cut. I'll cut that triangle out. Turn that off. And, oh, is it a triangle? No, it isn't. Okay, so that's an odd cut. So lots of polygons in there that I was missing. So I'll just make that back to a face and delete that edge, and I've got more topology for the corner of my eye. Okay, so there's a loop, goes into the nose, loop goes into the nose, that goes around the nose, that goes up the entire body, stops at the nose. There's the loop there, all back to loops, so we're happy. And there's an extra bit of topology in there in the eye. Now we do want some topology here for the eyebrow, so we can bring those down, but it doesn't help this top lid here. Now if I do make a cut, the cut will go all the way around the body of the model. I don't want that. So I again use my cut tool very carefully. Remember, maybe I might have to turn off the subsurface, so let's see how it goes. It's not really registering edges, so turn off the subsurface modifier and press K, and we're going to drive up the model and click in the center of a face and then exit. You have to click in the center of a face so that when you Control T, you can fix the topology. So that loop actually, I just got some more topology in the eye there, and turn that back on. I've got a loop that exits out of the head from the eye. It just goes around the corner there. Probably not really enough topology, but it's good enough to get a start. And the nose is looking particularly ugly, so just let me move some vertexes around. Probably want to enhance that, so I'll just make a cut along there, push those verts in, pull those verts out. It's really just pushing and pulling verts to make sure things are smooth. Let's get that out of the way. Now I don't have that loop there, is not very smooth, and it's looking very Davros like, so I've got to be careful about how I interpret this character. It has to be cute, but at least I've got the topology in order to move. I want to make the character topologically correct rather than cute just now. So I've got loops there, I've got loops for my maw, got loops for my nose. Push the nose together, the bridge of the nose. I've got some exit. Turn off my soft selection tool. Now I've got to say this is all very bunched up just here, so, and there's really not very many polygons in there, and I can cut from the mouth to the nostril, so I'll do that because it's a way for I can get some free topology without causing loops all around the body. Again, I need some more definition around here and here on the lip, the bottom lip. So if I cut, the cut will go all the way around the body of the character, and I don't want all that extra polygon, so again I'll cut with a K tool. So I press cut and center of a polygon and go left to exit. Now the exit is onto the mirror edge. It's good to exit onto a mirror edge. There's an edge there that I don't need, and I have to fix this polygon there. Control T and then just build faces back. So there's my exiting loop, and I've got my extra polygons now to use. It is a very ugly model in low res, so turn on your subdivision surface and pull away and try to fix any tension that you've got by sliding GG to help you slide. Okay, so I'll just add an edge ring there, get this out of the way so it starts to form, what is it, a reasonably round looking cheek. I'll pull that mouth into the model, and the corners of the mouth need to shrink a bit, probably a bit too far in for lips, but they're supposed to form the beginning of the lips, and if we don't have enough topology we won't be able to. Not really after attractive design, I just want the raw topology, because once you have a character of reasonably good topology you can model it into anything. Okay, so just putting that in order, loop that around. It's supposed to be the lips, so I can extrude that. That loop there, it separates the nose loop. It's good to have, but it looks like it might be in the way. So just for this exercise I'll merge it, so then I have my lips, extrude them forward, and I've now got my 3 loops there, which are my extrusions. Shrink that outer one. Obviously the edges of the lips go in, and shape to according to the design, but we're not really working off a design for the face. I'm just showing you how the topology works. Alright, so drag that in, and you're starting to get correct topology for your model. Okay, that nose is not right. There's my edge loop there, and there's my nostril loop. But I have to make sure that edge loop gives me enough topology. I reckon we can probably collapse that. Or if I collapse that, I might. Let's see what happens. That's not too bad. It's bearable. It certainly takes a bit of topology off my eye area, which is okay, but it cleans up the nose a bit, so I might just merge that and then work with it. What I've got to do is get a loop going across the top of the nose like this, but I need to make it topologically correct, and at the moment it isn't. And I also want to make sure the loop for the more there, let me just cut another loop, is suitable for a nose, because if I can't add in detail for the fold of how a cheek sits over, I can't embed into the character cheeks. Cheeks hang over the mouth. Just look on a character who is starting to get, the nose is a bit chubby. Push that in. Probably a bit too many loops going across there like that. So if I delete that edge loop, we've still got that crease across the top of the nose there, and that's what we're trying to aim for. Well, still going in the wrong direction. It has to come up here. So this loop, we're going to have to redirect it. We want it to join this loop, which means we'll break that loop as well. So let's just get that loop up there by collapsing that and that. Merge, collapse. Now we've got a triangle. Chase that triangle out any of these directions. I'd say chase it out that direction. And merge it, collapse. So that's a higher loop now. And add a loop, tuck that under. We're starting to get proper topology. I think we should join, instead of going into the eye there, it should join with this. So there's the edge there. I'll merge that. So now it joins. That works. That goes across, a little bit weird, I'll fix that. There's a vertex that, well, I can actually collapse just that one vertex. So there's an edge loop. The edge loop of the nose is going across the face correctly, around the nose. Okay, starting to look a bit better. Not photoreal yet, but at least it's starting. And we could bevel that edge there to get a bit more nose detail. Slide that along, push that nose up, push it in actually, and then that out, and you start to get a nose shape. Might turn that up a bit so you can see topologically we're getting there. Nostrils aren't usually that big. Okay. Most cute little chibi characters have an upturned nose. Not too much. And the other thing is the bridge of their nose is lower than their nostril. This bridge here is lower towards their face than their outer nostrils. So just remember It's all about the design. You might have designed your character differently, and I'm just making this up as I go, but it gives you a sense on how facial topology should sit on a model. Got a little bit of a squeaky nose. It's not very well shaped. Just work towards making it a little bit smoother. It's probably a bit of excess topology there, but we need it because we're putting detail into an area that needs a little bit of detail. Okay, so I'll leave that alone for now. And take you onto the hands. Okay. Just give that some general fixing, general shape. The nose is very big. It's just a matter of whatever the design preferences are for your model. I can play with this for hours trying to get it cuter and cuter, but that's just basically the topology. The topology's all there. I might add some loops, but that's about it. All the loops are there. So the lips are there, the nose is there. I've lost the more, but I've got my complete nose and my mouth, and I've got my eye. And I could add some loops up here for the eyebrow if I needed. So from a side view, how's the shape of the head? A little bit warped, so fix the shape of the head. Just smoothing things out really, to try and get a more reasonable looking character with as minimal topology as possible. Really is a very low poly character. And the idea is to do it this way so that there's minimal amount of work to do when you want to fix it. Okay. Keep the eyes reasonably large. My chibi character. The nose reasonably small. Usually the noses are almost non-existent on these sorts of characters. A little bit too much. Noses are very difficult to get right, so I might just leave that after making a small fix. You get the idea. So the topology's there. You've got all the correct loops everywhere. You've got to check your loops. You can stop a loop by a triangle, so you've got to run your loops everywhere to just check that there's no triangles. That's my face loop. I built that before. Sort of made it warp a little bit because of that exit loop I put into the eye, but that's acceptable. Okay, so that's where we'll leave the face. I might just save that. Always save your work. Now the hands. Now I'm getting the grid in the way, so I can turn the grid off. And I just go to display grid, turn it off. And now I'll start working on the hands. So that's the geometry I want to work on for my hands. I invert the selection by going select, invert, and then hide. And I can start working on my hand. Now my hand is going to have 5 fingers, so I need 5 vertexes. I've only got, I need 5 polygons to extrude from, because I'm going to make an extrusion per. So here's my hand. but I've only got 1, 2, 3. Well, I'll just open this up so you can see, and I'll bring that polygon down, the edge down there. Okay, so that's my starting point. There's 1, 2, 3. If I inset, if I make an inset, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 polygons now. So I can start making my hand off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 polygons. I'll just move that around a little bit. Okay, and straighten it up. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 polygons in order to extrude from, to make my hands, fingers. Alright, so starting with the first one. First one is the thumb, and that's that. So I just extrude twice for the thumb. There it is. That one is the forefinger. So twice for that. That's the middle finger. That's the ring finger, and that's the pinky. Okay, very, very basic, and that's proper topology now. The edges go around the edges, the loops go around the loops, and everything is a quad. It's good topology, but it's not in the right shape. And let's unhide the model, Alt H, and we can see the scale of the hand's a little bit big. So select the hand again, and Shift H will hide the invert. And what I want to do is start to shape this hand into what would be a normal looking hand, and also smaller. So let's start with the smaller, and those edges there represents the knuckles, so I can bevel that. Instantly it starts to give it a little bit of character. And the other one is I want to shrink the knuckles in, except on the thumb, just to give each finger the correct scale. Okay, this is where the connect tool starts to be handy, because I can use my connect tool to just adjust and straighten fingers according to how I imagine my hand to be shaped. That's the pinky. That's the wrong selection. There we go. Pinky is usually a lot smaller than the rest of the hand, and it's starting to make a bit of this topology ugly, so be careful about that. And all I'm doing is selecting loops and moving them around, because I've already got the topology, and that's all I need to make a hand. Is very, very simple topology. This is a kind of a glove, cartoony hand, and to add more loops, to add more detail, would only be necessary if I'm working off a photoreal model, which some people like. I don't tend to work off photoreal very often, but when I do, if it's really handy to be able to buy geometry with good topology, because modelling a photoreal hand from scratch is extremely time consuming. But if you get a good photoreal hand from scratch with good topology, you'll probably use it forever if you're doing photoreal. Cartoony, well, there's a lot of forgiving in cartoony. Obviously you can see my the way I'm working here is very, very loose and free form. I'm not really tending to follow much design for the hand, because there isn't any on the model sheet. But some characters have very unique hands, so you have to follow the design sheets quite closely. I want to make all the fingers proper length, and of course minimize the stretch on polygons. I haven't changed at the moment, I haven't added any new loops. I'm just moving polygons around, try and get the shape of a decent hand. Okay. No real work on knuckles, but I can continue to detail this model significantly if I choose to. Just got to even up the thickness of each finger so that it sort of works. The palm is usually puffy, and I might need more detail in here later if the model doesn't have enough detail down in the fingers. I might add in. This would be pretty close to the minimum topology of a character's hand. I could delete a few of these edge loops, but then I wouldn't get that crease of the knuckle as the hand bends at the fingers. Very, very basic topology, but that's the idea. You just got to get your topology down and model on top of that. You can also texture in a lot of detail, so don't forget that either. You're not necessarily wanting to put model topology in to represent your creature. You want to put in texture detail sometimes. So textures are a great way to add very, very fine detail that you might not be able to model because your polygon budget's not acceptable. Alright, well, let's just unhide the rest of the geometry and get it working again. Obviously you've got to make the hand scaled and suit the model. And there has to be some appeal put into the character's fingers too, just as if I would put the character's personality in there. Because if you're not trying to put appeal into your model, there's no point making a decent character model. Very, very low poly. And if I turn off my Turbo Smooth, it's actually really blocky. Turbo Smooth is actually doing all the work. Alright. Okay, there's our little alien character. Looks okay, he's topologically correct. I'll upload the model into YouTube. I'll put a link up there so you can see that, and hopefully you'll be able to learn about proper topology for very, very simple characters. Alright, been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'll see you next time.